Greetings, beloveds. This is Amy Karen Johnson, the Earth Channel, here with you with a live message today. I now have my dog kenneled in a crate for just a little bit because it was very clear last week when I did my live message then that no one appreciated the distraction that I had of dealing with his playfulness, which sometimes can be very cute and amusing to perhaps even you all, but other times is merely a distraction. So no more of that today. However, I do encourage you to go back and listen to that. And because so few of you, I think, really watched very far at all, if watched any of it, I'm going to repeat a few of the things that I shared last week without those distractions now. I recently had an appointment with a new osteopathic physician who recommended to me a book called Breath by James Nestor. And as I had shared in two previous videos previous to last week's live message, there is currently still a definition between the crown and third eye centers, also known as the head and ajna in human design, by the transits. Currently, Mercury has just started stationing direct, but as I said last week, it's very slow when that happens. And so it's not until Tuesday that Mercury will stop defining that channel that connects the head and the ajna, aka crown and third eye. As I have also shared before, the thing that makes this most difficult is the fact that there is no defined channel connecting the third eye to the throat. So we're stuck sort of spinning in our heads a bit until we master that energy, at least. After Mercury moves out of the 61st gate, it will not be coming back to that gate for another year or so, but Venus, a little less than 2 weeks later, excuse the noise, will then move into that gate, the 61st. It had retrograded in that gate before. It will finally be coming back to it at the end of February. And then in March, we'll get a longer break from it being consciously defined. It'll still be unconsciously defined, which is what it means when there's the red channels. I'll post an image of that, although I can't include it in the video at this time when I'm doing it live. So, the unconscious is definitely less intense. And by the time it's unconscious, which always happens after the conscious part of it, we begin to master it more so, and we begin to focus on the conscious energies instead. But I had discovered through this book, Breath, again, by James Nestor, a really good way, in addition to the ways that I've spoken about before, of helping to connect the heart, throat, and third eye centers. And that is through sort of two things in a way, but they can easily be done and should be done at the same time. Number one, nasal breathing. I know some of you may have difficulty with that, but the more you practice, the more nasal capacity you will get. If you need help clearing your nose, try walking, standing, dancing. Natural nasal sprays, I do not recommend any steroidal sprays, but Ion Biome is a great one. Ion Sinus, I think it might be called, as well as colloidal silver can be helpful if you're having a little bit of an infection. But the more you develop your nasal breathing, the fewer infections you will have in your nose, as well as the fewer, colds and viruses and that kind of thing. It's been shown scientifically. The other thing has to do with when you're not talking or singing, obviously, putting your tongue at the roof of your throat, of your mouth, top, with the tip of it just a centimeter or so behind your teeth, suctioning it so that as if you were going to make that clicking noise that I just made. That's kind of how you know you've got it. And that in particular really does help connect. Obviously, excuse the noise, if you are suctioning your tongue to the roof of your mouth like that, it will be very difficult, if not impossible, for you to breathe through your mouth anyway. So that sort of goes together and perhaps goes without saying, but I'm going to say it anyway for clarity, that the more you can breathe that way, as well as lengthen your breaths, not hold your breath, let each one flow into the next. And if you can spend 10 minutes doing that, just slowing your breathing with the tongue on the roof of your mouth and breathing through your nose, you will notice an improvement in your mental state, your emotional state, and your physical state. And I've been really impressed with how much this has helped me, which, of course, it's not possible to do this every moment of every day, but if I can practice at least 10 minutes a day, preferably half an hour or more, I have noticed a great deal of help for myself. And so I feel confident that you will as well. Okay, with that being said, I'm going to get into the channeling state, bringing you a message from Mother Earth, Gaia. If you would like, please join me in taking a few deep breaths as slowly as we can and closing your eyes. Hello, this is Gaia. We see many of you who have challenges coming up in your life and are struggling to find a new way to deal with them. At least part of you recognizes that the ways that you are most familiar with in dealing with challenges are no longer working to your satisfaction. Those ways tend to fall into two categories. One is running away or avoiding somehow those challenges, and the other has to do with facing them head on, but with more of an adversarial state of mind, state of being. Trying to win that fight, triumph in that struggle. There are certainly times when walking away is the best choice, and as well, when speaking your truth is the best choice, even when it contradicts what someone else is saying or thinking or exhibiting. And yet there is a way to do both of those things that will decrease the likelihood that you will encounter these sorts of things again, as well as the likelihood that someone will engage in conflict with you as opposed to any kind of resolution. The first step that will help you with these things is to send love to these challenges. Send love to these situations, to these people, knowing that in the end, you truly do want the best for all concerned. Quite often, the reason for you to perceive something as a challenge has to do with the fact that you believe you know what is best in the situation, and the other person is working against that, or maybe more than one person. Some of you are at a point where you may even truly be able to see what is best for everyone, at least in the long run. Others of you may be a little more focused on what you know is best for yourself, and that's okay. But it will help you to expand your view, to try to put yourself in the other's shoes, and to see what is best for them, as well as perhaps their current perspective, whether those things are aligned or not. People do sometimes work against their own highest good. And once you can begin to perceive what that likely is, whether in the very broad picture of things or in the moment, the more it becomes easier for you to send love to them and work with them in a way that will decrease the chances of them behaving more as adversaries. That recognition alone and that ability to open your heart, at least to their higher selves, if not to their faces, their physical selves, at this time, is enough to create a shift, at least to some degree, in the situation. But if you would take it a step further, we would then encourage you to recognize the possibility that it is necessary for you to, as you might say sometimes in your realm, lose the battle to win the war. When you get overly focused on each and every battle, winning them, or enacting retaliation for a battle lost, it becomes more likely that you will lose the war. And yet, we would also nudge you toward letting go of that metaphor as well. Sometimes challenges happen in order to assist you in letting go and in walking away, as we said at the beginning of this message. There often are truly solutions, most of the time, that will eventually satisfy everyone. And yet, if they are forced upon others as opposed to arrived at willingly, they will not recognize them as such. That is why, as you approach the person who you may have seen as your enemy with more of an open heart, more of wanting their highest good, you may instead simply ask them what they believe the best solution is. And by that gesture of openness, they may arrive at that solution themselves, even though you will know that you absolutely helped them, as passive as your role mate may have seemed. There is also the possibility that they will share some perspective that you had not previously been aware of. And by listening to that perspective, you will then be able to adjust your solution to be even better at addressing everyone's concerns. Anytime you judge another person as working against you, not wanting the highest good, being flawed in some way, you truly are judging a part of yourself. You are taking your eye off of the route to true satisfaction, the route to true peace. And it makes it much less likely that you will get there anytime soon. It is okay to not see eye to eye, to recognize differences. And yet, if you can honor those differences as opposed to railing against them, you will be much less likely to encounter conflict wherever you go from there. We hope that this has assisted you in one way or another to come to a greater sense of peace within yourself. For that is the only place you will ever find peace. within. We thank you so much for joining us. Namaste, beloveds. I also noticed in last week's message that the microphone seemed to be picking up a little bit more static interference of some kind. So I hope that's better this week. If not, I will perhaps stop doing these live messages and just do recorded ones. The main reason I've been doing live messages the past 2 weeks is because it removes my temptation to edit them, to add images, to add a great deal of text and so forth, which I really need a break from right now. Honestly, my day job has gotten a little more intense lately, and I need more rest than I did before. That may change sometime in the future, but for now, this is the way I'm dealing with it. And even though my last video was not very popular, it is helping me to be able to do this. So I appreciate your patience and understanding, and I hope you're still able to receive the message, which I know is valuable if you do receive it. All right, that's all for now. I hope you all have a wonderful week.